New information this morning about Michigan's ranking in the bottom 10 U.S. states for fourth grade reading. A new report details our state fell in the ranks in 2022. Numbers are expected to remain the same in the coming years for underserved students with low-income backgrounds if significant changes are not implemented. News Channel 3's Maria Serrano joining us live in studio. Maria, you spoke to a Western Michigan University education expert to try and pinpoint why this is happening here and the impact this is having on student education.
That's exactly right, Kirk. Good morning to you. The executive director of the Education Trust Midwest, the organization who released the report, is saying we have to act urgently to curb declining scores. According to this report, Michigan is now ranked in the bottom 10 states nationally for fourth grade reading. It's projected to remain the same and at that level by 2030 unless dramatic research-backed changes are implemented to turn that around. A WMU education expert says this report is highlighting the systemic problems in education here in our state and how the effects of the pandemic have negatively affected reading scores, particularly at the fourth grade level and for low-income students, students of color, English learners, and students with disabilities. This expert tells us the findings of the report weren't surprising and the issues here in Michigan are much bigger than how to teach kids to read or really the question of are teachers doing a good job. She says it's about the opportunity for all students to high quality teachers and equity in learning experiences and environments.
What this report is highlighting is that systemically, we weren't in a great place before the pandemic. We had stayed stagnant pretty much over the last 15 or so years, but then the pandemic came and now we see even further declines. We've seen disproportionate negative effects that COVID has had on communities that were already struggling before the pandemic hit.
Piazza says part of the issue is policy related and some of it's also spending and funding related. One example in the report is that Michigan schools have received over $3.7 billion in relief funds, but we've yet to spend only 20% of that. So she says we're not taking full advantage of the resources that we have to make a difference. She says investing in technology like computers, resources, materials, and also supporting teachers and professional development is also key here.
Michigan's legislature is now back in session for the first time this year, with Democrats taking power after a clean sweep in last year's election.
Yeah, our political reporter Rachel Louise Just brings us up to speed on day one in Lansing.
With the slam of a gavel, a new era in Lansing begins.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan?
For the first time since 1984, Michigan Democrats have full control of Lansing, winning the governorship and flipping both the House and Senate. On Wednesday, the Senate's walls matched the majority party for the first time in decades, all blue, though some were more interested in dinosaurs than democracy.
Republicans now being in the minority, what's the plan to still make a mark and get those priorities through?
And if they go ahead and try to go on a full partisan way, I mean, they're in the majority, but they only have a one-seat majority.
For Democrats, a sense of hope and focus.
There's a great feeling of optimism. We've got a lot of excitement about a really positive policy agenda. We really want to put people first.
As they prepare to take on the responsibility of legislating and leading the state's policy. Already, though, friction between the newly minority Republicans and the majority party. One Republican lawmaker camping out, determined to beat new Speaker Joe Tate in introducing the first bill of the session, with Tate using another room to get the first introductions.
Doing that kind of stuff is where the gamesmanship truly is, and I was disappointed.
History made as lawmakers elected the most diverse leadership in state history. A black speaker, female Senate Majority Leader, and pro tempores in both chambers who are part of the LGBTQ+ community. In the House, some Republicans breaking from tradition and voting against Democratic leadership picks.
We are going to have different opinions, across this entire chamber, but I'm not concerned about that. I'm just ready to get to work.
What I think you will all learn over the next 2 years is it's actually the Democrats in this legislature that are much more fractured.
House Republicans starting off the new term running, introducing a tax plan that aims to help retirees and low-wage workers.
Democrats continue to keep relatively quiet about specific agenda priorities, including things that more progressive advocates want, like repealing right to work. I am told, though, that we should expect to see more bipartisan work from this majority.
Well, the Kalamazoo Mental Health Agency is starting to spend more than $500,000 in grant money to help people who are going through crisis. Tonight, News Channel 3's Autumn Pitcher is joining us live in studio to explain, Autumn, exactly where that money is going.
Andy, Integrated Services of Kalamazoo received a $550,000 grant last year for a partnership with law enforcement agencies across Kalamazoo County. They're now implementing a plan to hire more workers and open a new 24-hour urgent care center. Integrated Services of Kalamazoo says the money will deliver help where it's needed most, handling overwhelming mental health calls police have been responding to for years.
We hope that the time that officers have to spend in an emergency department or other areas trying to obtain the services that the people that they're working with need will be shortened so they can get back on the road.
ISK says Kalamazoo County 911 took more than 18,000 calls related to mental health in 2021. ISK believes a new 24-hour urgent care behavioral health center will ease the burden on police.
We'd like to help out with that load. So this is an opportunity for people to come into our setting and to get services and the assistance that they need without having to go through the process of an emergency department.
Jocelyn Haynes just moved to Kalamazoo from Tennessee. Haynes says she has struggled with mental health since she was 14.
Right before my parents got a divorce.
In her later teens, she says she found herself dealing with an identity crisis leading to destructive coping mechanisms.
I started self-harming around 15. And didn't stop till I was 18.
Haynes says she still battles depression, anxiety, and fear of judgment to this day.
Draining. That's the first word that comes to mind. It's just absolutely draining.
But it's her artwork, paintings of nature, and elaborate drawings of flowers and animals that's helped her cope.
This picture was everything I was feeling on the inside.
Integrated Services of Kalamazoo says it treated more than 8,000 people last year. Next year, it plans to have a 24-hour coverage throughout Kalamazoo County. ISK says the urgent care center is scheduled to open this summer on West Kalamazoo Avenue.